Okay to go ahead? Okay, great. Hello, everyone. My name's Nick. I'm from Bristol originally, but I'm a doctor in Edinburgh, back in the UK. The structure of what we'll do today is I'll introduce myself and we'll all introduce ourselves. I'll give you a little bit of a chat about the station here in Antarctica, and then we'll move on and we can answer some of your questions. So as I said, my name's Nick. I'm a doctor in Edinburgh ordinarily, but here I work for the European Space Agency performing human research. I'm also the rescue doctor here, which involves if anyone gets injured or sick in a big way outside, it's my job to organize the team to go and rescue them and bring them back to the station.
I'm sorting sound now.
Good morning, I'm Fabio. I'm in my normal life, I'm a researcher, and here in Concordia, I'm the winter of a glaciologist. I follow different projects relating to snow sampling and the air sampling.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Concordia. My name is Rodolfo. Back in Italy, I'm an astrophysicist. I work on technology development for telescope, mirror for telescope. Here in Concordia, I have two roles. One is physics of the atmosphere. So I manage a number of instruments concerning meteorology, physics and chemistry of the atmosphere. And I'm also the station leader of the base for this 17th winter over.
Good morning at all. I'm Giusy, and I am an anesthetist, and in Concordia, I'm the doctor of the base.
So it's not just the four of us. There are actually 8 people missing. We're a crew of 12. So missing are Simone, who's our cook, Charles, who's our mechanic, and he deals with the sort of wastewater and things like that. We've got Quentin as well, who is our welder and fabricator. He's kind of like a multi-skilled technician. Cedric is our electrician and electronics guy. David is our communications and information technology guy. And then there's Jean-Francois. He's our chef central. His job is basically to maintain the 3 massive diesel engines that provide us with energy, electricity and heat. And also he manages the water recycling system. Then there's also Dennis, who's the French glaciologist here. Marco, who's an astrophysicist. Yeah, he's
seismology,
yeah, okay. Everyone has more than one job, so it's difficult to keep up. Yeah, so, and then, was that everyone? I think that's everyone.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so that's all 12 of us. So what I'll do now is I'll tell you a little bit about the station and where we are and what we do here. Fabio's kindly going to show you some pictures of the station whilst I do so that you don't have to look at my awful long hair. But I promise you I look worse with a shaved head, so sorry about that. Okay, so here we have a map of Antarctica, the continent of Antarctica. It's a massive continent. It doubles in size in the winter, which is where we are now because we're in the southern hemisphere. The reason why it doubles is because sea ice doubles the size of the sort of livable area. Fabio's gesturing to where Concordia is at the moment there. It's the only joint base in Antarctica. It's split between France and Italy. And it's also one of only 3 inland stations that are staffed all year round as well. The nearest station is about 600 kilometers away. That's about just under 400 miles, which is the Russian Vostok as well. So it's all pretty much inaccessible. And we're about 1,000 kilometers away from the coast. The other station that operates year-round inland is the American Amundsen Scott, which is actually at the South Pole. But interestingly, they're at the geographic South Pole. Well, it depends on your definition of interesting, but we're actually closer to the magnetic South Pole of the Earth. So that's where we are. This is a plan view, like an aerial view of Concordia Station. Fabio's gesturing to the 2 towers, which are the main station. There's a Lord of the Rings reference there as well that I won't make. But also you can see that we're surrounded by nothing, okay? There's no life here other than the 12 humans that live here during the winter. I think the only other life is some bacteria frozen in the snow, so it's dormant. So there's no penguins, unfortunately, certainly no polar bears, no seals, no sea lions, no nothing like that. So it's just us. This is another view of the station in the summer because the sun is up. We're currently in 24-hour darkness, and we will be until August time. But you can see the station is made up of 2 towers principally. You've got on the left, there's the quiet tower, which has the hospital, the bedrooms, and the laboratories. And on the right, you have the loud tower that's connected to the workshops and the kitchen and the living areas, that sort of thing. And here's another picture. On the right, you've got the orange containers. That's where all of our electricity is generated, and that's where all of our water is treated as well. So this is a picture of the living room where we're sat now. It's very, very wide angle, but this is where we spend our sort of leisure time. As you can see, we've got a library in the background. On the left, there's an incredible coffee machine. And there's also a TV that we're looking at you on now, and an entertainment system as well. Moving on, this is the dining area. So it's set up for winter at the moment, but ordinarily the station in summer would have about 80 people. So this would be set out differently, but this is only set up for the 12 of us. We've got ping pong, table football. We've got a billiards table as well. It took me a long time to figure out what the difference between billiards and pool was, but I finally did it. Yes. And moving on, we've got the kitchen. It's a professional kitchen with lots of different functions and things like that. There's a specific, you can tell it's an Italian base because there's a specific pasta maker just in there, you can see. That's Simone, our cook, who's probably the most important person other than Juicy on the station. This is our gym. We've got a lovely treadmill there, some free weights, things like that, exercise bike, a stepping machine, lots of different facilities there. This is our video room, so it's like a sort of cinema room, but we also use it for teaching as well. You can see Conta in the hammock there on the climbing wall. We'll put in inverted commas. So this is the central office where the technical team organize themselves. Oh, I should have mentioned actually, the crew is split roughly in half, with half being a scientific team and half being the technical team that make the station livable and make it possible to do science here. This is the workshop. So as you can see, we've got not everyone here is a scientist, so this is where the technicians spend a lot of their time. Lots of machines, drills, lathes, that sort of thing, where they perform maintenance and corrections to the station. This is the water treatment facility. Part of my job is actually to perform water safety testing, make sure there are no little friends growing in the water, because that's where we use this water to wash ourselves with. This is actually this was actually a what's the word I'm looking for? Prototype. Yeah, a prototype of the same water recycling system that's on the the International Space Station. But I think theirs is a bit more advanced now. So this is the Centrale. So the yellow thing with cat written on it, that's one of the massive diesel engine that provides us with heat and electricity. And that's all 3 of them in the row. And it's Jean-François's job to make sure that they stay alive and keep us alive. So this is the hospital. The hospital isn't just a hospital, it's also a dentist. So Juicy has lots of training to make sure that she can cope with all of the most common problems. So there's a dental chair there you can see, and in the background there's a space, a small lab space where you can do sort of blood tests and that sort of thing. That blue door leads through into the operating theatre where you can perform emergency surgery, or we can, look after people who are very, very sick, which has happened once, unfortunately, during the summer. But everything's fine, don't worry. This is one of the bedrooms. So all the bedrooms are exactly the same. And if you blindfolded yourself and walk into one, you wouldn't be able to tell which bedroom you're in. That's how exactly the same they are. This was in summer because there's light coming through the window, and you can see that top bunk folds down. But at the moment, because there's only 12 of us, we all have a room to ourselves, which is essential during the winter. So moving upstairs, this is the lab. So this is the IT room and the communications room. This is where David manages our internet connection. He manages our satellite communications, our radio communications, all of that. And it's also our sort of control tower for when we receive aircraft as well. So this is the Glaciology Laboratory. You can see you've got a fume cupboard on the side there. And then there's, lots of fume cupboards and lots of equipment there to perform tests on snow chemistry and testing of the ice around the station as well. This is my lab. This is the European Space Agency lab. As you can see, I've betrayed England and I've got a Scottish flag up. But don't worry, there's a British one out of shot, but someone's trying to, and a Romanian one. But this is where I do all of my science, blood tests, cognitive tests, that sort of thing. This is the astrophysics and astronomy and seismology. As I said, everything is has more than one function, which is where Marco usually works. And this is also an astrophysics lab where Rodolfo works, and he spends a lot of time in there organizing his like meteo as well, and all sorts of bits and bobs. Very complicated. Okay, so I mean that's the station in general. I hope that wasn't too long. So yeah, just to summarize, it's split into two towers: a loud and a quiet, a living and a science, and then a eating and a technical part. So yeah, we can move on to some. If anyone's got any questions, more than happy to answer some questions about anything you'd like, life here at the station, or the science that we do here, or anything at all.
Okay, I'll just pull up my list of questions. I think one of the ones that I can remember off the top of my head was asking about the food that you guys have whilst you're out there.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah, that would be great. So the food here is right now, surprise, surprise, we're eating a lot of frozen food. But during the summer, we have regular resupply via aircraft and over land as well. So in the summer, we do get fresh food that's flown in from Australia and Tasmania and New Zealand. As you can see here, there's two of our supply planes. The one in the background actually flew during World War II, I believe, and they've repurposed it to fly in Antarctica. Gives you a kind of sense of how new and shiny everything is here. And the one in the foreground is the Twin Otter, but they basically bring us our fresh food and scientific equipment that's got like life, life expiry dates and things on it. But the main supply comes sort of like 1,000 tons at a time, comes via the Traverse, which is a 1,000-kilometer journey from the French base of Dumont d'Urville, which is basically giant bulldozers that have been modified to work in Antarctica. And they drag giant shipping containers full of our food and things like that. Our chef here is extremely good, and he makes wonderful food. It's one of the great things about being at a French-Italian base. I'm sure the British stations don't have the same luxuries that we do. And we've also got an amazing coffee machine. And this is the unloading of the Traverse, and you can see it's a 10-day journey for the guys that do come on the Traverse. They have to have their own doctor and their own food as well for the journey. But basically, we're really well supplied. We've got lots of food here that would last a lot longer than we needed for the winter. And it's a very, very good quality considering we're some of the most isolated humans on Earth.
Lovely, thank you very much. The next one is from 9EL, which is, how does it make you feel to have no dark in summer and no light in the winter?
Yeah, it's a good question. For me personally, I feel like I'm on a permanent night shift at the moment, which makes me feel a bit gross. But there's work to do and things, so you kind of pile through. Your sleep pattern is irregular. In the summer, it's actually a lot easier because we've got blackout blinds on the windows, so you can almost simulate it. But in the winter, it becomes a bit more difficult because your vitamin D levels will drop due to a lack of UV exposure, which can affect your mood. We're isolated, which can affect your mood. I know I live in Scotland, but there is some sunshine up there, so it's a big difference, and it does impact your sleep as well. I don't know if anyone else wants to add.
Yeah, Nick said the most important part. In the summer, we can use the blind and we got the dark. In the winter, we cannot just switch on the light to have the sunlight. It's completely different. So at the moment, for me, it's still exciting. When I go out in the morning at 9, like today, it's still dark. It's nice because there is some light at the horizon. Yeah, and Jupiter, and we see the stars also when we go out early in the morning. But I think this will change. I mean, not to have. I mean, also when we finish to lunch, it's dark, and we say, "Okay, good night," but it's not. It's only 1 p.m. So it's a really peculiar situation.
Lovely, thank you very much. The next question is from 9SR, which is why would you work in Antarctica to research space?
Yeah. So that's definitely my area of expertise, shall we say. So the European Space Agency are interested in Antarctica because other than some very obvious differences, for example, we have gravity, but we're also at high altitude here, which means that we have the same proportion of oxygen, but there's less available to us. So we're chronically hypoxic. Other than those two main differences, we face the same or extremely similar factors that astronauts will face in space on long distance space travel in a lunar station or on a Martian station. So we face an extreme outdoor environment that if we don't go out with if we go out without protective clothing on, we'll die essentially. At the moment, I think it's -70 outside, I believe. Yeah, we'll show you the temperature and the current outdoor climate on our weather system here now. So we face an extreme outdoor environment. We work in a small crew, and we also have no opportunity for rescue as well. At this time of year, it's actually colder on the ground than it is at the level that jumbo jets cruise at, so no planes can land here. So you can see at the moment it's -70 with wind chill, obviously because we're warm beings. It's -86. In the last couple of weeks, the wind chill temperature has gone down below -100. So we face a really, really difficult environment to live in. Not to mention the day-night cycle effects as well. The effects of living in social isolation, professional isolation as well. There's social monotony, professional monotony. It's very, very routine driven here. So all of these factors combined make Concordia Station analogous to living on another planet, if you ignore the obvious gravity differences. So the European Space Agency are really interested because it can shed some light and provide some insight into the factors and the challenges that astronauts will face when when we progress further than near Earth orbit, the moon, potentially Mars. I hope that answers your question. Sorry, that was a bit waffly.
No, that's brilliant. Thank you. So next question is from, let's have a look, from 9AL. I think you've already answered some of their ones that they've had before, but one that I don't think you've said yet is how long are you at the station for at a time?
So it varies roughly year to year. There are two campaigns. There's the summer campaign and the winter campaign. If you come for the winter campaign, you do both the summer and the winter. We arrived we left home in the middle of October, and we probably won't be home again until the middle of December. So it's about 14 months that we're away from home. However, because of the special circumstances that we've all faced this year, we actually had a month in Hobart in Tasmania where we spent half of that isolating and getting swabs shoved down our throats. And then also half of it waiting for suitable weather conditions to come to Antarctica. So the summer campaign normally lasts from mid sort of November to early February. Yeah. So you're either here essentially for about 4 months or about 14 months. Yeah, does that? I think that answers it. Yeah. Yes. How long are we here for? Oh yeah. So winter people 14 months, summer people about 4 months.
Lovely, thank you. So next one is from 9PR, which is what is it like living through a pandemic in one of the remotest places on Earth?
So I think Juicy and I have got a slightly different experience because we worked through the pandemic, through the first wave. So things here are ultra calm compared to working through a pandemic. Getting here was really, really challenging. I personally found the pre-departure phase where I had to organize all of my research, get the consent process done and done ethically as well. I found it really, really challenging to get here. But once we got here, because everyone is so rigorously screened for COVID, there's actually no risk of getting COVID whilst you're here. So when you're here, it's like a COVID-free place. So it's the same as it would be when there isn't a pandemic on. But would anyone else like to add anything?
Yeah, one thing that I can add, as said by Nick, we are living in a pandemic-free environment, but we keep us updated not only on the evolution of the pandemic in Europe, but also in Australia, because to get out from Antarctica, we have to pass through many countries. The first one is Australia. So our way to get out is conditioned, is imposed by the rules also by many other countries.
Thank you. So next one is from 9ER. And they said, what is the process that would get one of year 9 into space, or I suppose into Antarctica? And how long would the process take?
It's a good question. So getting to space, you'd need to apply to become an astronaut, or you could become very rich and ask Richard Branson for a seat on one of his space vehicles. I think there are some commercial space flights happening, but yeah, I think as a European, continental European, I might add, the European Space Agency still recruits from the UK, because the European Space Agency and the European Union are two different things. So just bear that in mind. You to get to space, you need to apply to become an astronaut, essentially, which I think that not this time around, but the last time around, there were 10,000 applicants for 8 spaces. So it's a particularly challenging, it's a particularly competitive process. To be an astronaut, you need to have a master's degree or a medical degree or higher, and you need to have worked for a few years within that. And I think you need to be above 25, I think. But I actually don't know much about the astronaut selection process. I looked at it myself, but it's not for me. In terms of getting to Antarctica, there's 2 routes that you can take. You can either come here in a science capacity, like us. Sorry, 3 routes you can take: science, medical, or technical. These stations don't just live on their own. So the technicians are as essential as the scientists here. They're probably more essential than the scientists here. So they need electricians, mechanics, welders. They need people who work on ships. They need all sorts of different technicians of different skills and trades and vocational qualifications to come and work in these stations as well. As I mentioned, about half of our crew here are a technical team. Or you can go into science, and honestly, you can go into any kind of science you like, and still manage to make it into to get to Antarctica. A lot of the time, I think most people here have got a master's or above. Yeah, PhD. I think you've both got PhD. Yeah, these guys have both got PhDs. Juzy's a consultant anaesthetist, and I'm just, little. Yeah, anyway, I've just got my pithy little medical degree. Yeah, so you can go into science, and if you want to look into astrophysics, if you want to look into astronomy, if you want to look into glaciology, snow chemistry, climate change, it's such a wide field that it's more important that you pick something that you enjoy, and then you can get down here. But it's important that people understand it's not just scientists that come here, it's also technical people.
Lovely, that's fantastic. I think that's probably about all we've got time for. So we just wanted to say a huge thank you for giving up your time. It's been really, really interesting. And all the best for the rest of the time that you've got out at the station. So I'll let my tutor group wave goodbye and possibly yell thank you as well, but so your speakers might be busted. But do you want to say goodbye, everybody?
Cheers, Ed. Yeah, cheers. Cheerio. Bye now.